I don't think this move, going from the Chiefs to the Commanders, makes it more likely that Eric Bieniemy will land a head coaching job in the NFL. Because when you look at it, there's something clearly going on. And I'm going to want to just run through a few theories here of what's been discussed in the past and hit on why this new move to Washington is not going to get rid of any of those theories. I hate to say it. I'm not rooting against Eric Bieniemy. I don't hate Eric Bieniemy whatsoever. No reason to. But looking at the situation, living in reality, seeing what's happened in the past and trying to project to the future, I hate to say it, but I think Eric Bieniemy's window for a head coaching role has passed, and I really don't think this move is going to really change his candidacy. So let's look at a few theories as to why Eric Bieniemy has not gotten a head coaching job in the past and see, okay, does this move to Washington, does that at all change one of those theories and make him more likely he'll be a head coach? Let's start with the first one, doesn't call plays. Right, that was one of the reasons why people have always discussed and always listed anytime Eric Bieniemy got passed over for a head coaching job, it was because he wasn't the primary play caller. It was, of course, Andy Reid. Here's the thing, though. Not being a play caller, being an offensive coordinator in the NFL that does not call plays does not preclude you from getting a head coaching job. Look at just the two previous offense coordinators in Kansas City before Eric Bieniemy got the same role. Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, both offensive coordinators under Andy Reid in Kansas City. Neither called the plays, both got head coaching opportunities. Obviously, Doug Peterson with the Eagles, and then now the Jaguars, but at least getting hired from Kansas City, it was the Eagles, and Matt Nagy to the Bears. But it's not just them. If we expand past just the Chiefs tree, Zach Taylor, quarterback coach of the Rams, head coach. Kevin O'Connell, offense coordinator with the Rams, head coach. Nick Sirianni, offense coordinator with the Colts. All three did not call plays at their previous stop before they were hired by their respective team to be their head coach. So we are not seeing this pattern of when you are not the primary play caller, you are not getting a head coaching job. We've seen a lot of guys, I just listed 5 names right there, that were offense coordinators that did not call the plays where they were and still were hired to be a head coach. So I don't think, if you look at Eric Bieniemy specifically, I don't think now him going to Washington and being the play caller is going to increase the likelihood of him getting a job, because we have seen in the past that not being the play caller is not a reason why you don't get a job. So I think that theory of him not calling plays is the reason why he has not gotten a head coaching job is debunked. And I don't think now him going to Washington to call the plays is going to really change anything all that much, because we've seen plenty of head coaches get jobs when they were not the primary play caller. Okay, so one theory there. Another theory that's been discussed as to why Eric Bieniemy has not been a head coach in the past is that he's a bad interviewer. Right? He doesn't interview well. It's what we've heard, that's been reported, that's been discussed about. I have no idea if Eric Bieniemy is a good interviewer or not. Right? I'm not in the interview room. I don't have any sources that are in the interview room with Eric Bieniemy. I don't know any head coaches. I don't know any GMs. I don't know anyone on the Chiefs staff. I don't know really anyone on any NFL staff. So I'm not saying that this is a fact. All we're talking about here is things that have been discussed between friends, between, in the media, on Twitter, as to reasons why he hasn't been hired. If the case is true, and if the reality is that Eric Bieniemy actually is not good at interviewing for the head coaching job or head coaching opportunities, him going to Washington is not going to change that. Him going to Washington to be the play caller is not going to make him a better interviewer. This is a guy who's been interviewed 16 times by 15 different teams for a head coaching role since 2019. He's had plenty of head coach interview experience, right? It's not like he's new to the cycle. It's like he's only had 1 or 2 interviews and he's still trying to get the feel of how things go and how to prepare for them. Again, 16 interviews he's gone on with 15 different teams. He's had plenty of experience of how to prepare for interviews, know what the interviews are going to be like, know what the questions that are going to be asked. He knows how to interview. And if he's just not good at interviewing, which I don't know to be the case, I'm not saying this is true, I'm just saying what's being speculated about. If in fact he truly is not a good interviewer in these head coaching interviews, going to the Commanders is not going to change that. Right? If he's bad at interviewing, he's gone through 16 of them, has talked to 15 different teams, and nothing's changing. Going to Washington is not going to change his ability to interview. So another theory that I don't see is going to help, Eric Bieniemy get a head coaching job is because I don't think that this lateral move is going to make him a better interviewer if, in fact, the reason why he's not getting any head coaching opportunities is because he's a bad interviewer. Okay, two theories that I don't think are impacted at all by his move to Washington. A third theory that has been thrown out there before, and that is this. He has to prove that it's not all Andy Reid. He has to prove that he can basically do it on his own. My question to you is this. Why would Eric Bieniemy be the only offensive coordinator in the NFL to have to prove his worth away from a great head coach to show that, in fact, that yes, the genius is part of him and that he can be a good head coach because he's had success elsewhere? Look at some of the names I just listed before. Zach Taylor worked under who before he was hired? Sean McVay. Great head coach, one of the best in the NFL. Mike McDaniel, before he was hired by the Dolphins, was on the 49ers staff under one of the best offensive minds in the NFL in Kyle Shanahan. Kevin O'Connell also worked under Sean McVay. Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy worked under the great Andy Reid. None of those names I just listed were forced to go somewhere else to prove that they are actually a quote-unquote good head coach or a good coach in general, and that all the success wasn't on the head coach themselves. In this case, either Sean McVay if you're Zach Taylor or Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan if you're Mike McDaniel, or if you are Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, or in this case, Eric Bieniemy, Andy Reid. No one else, as we talked about saying, they got to leave to go somewhere else to show that it's actually them, not just the head coach or not just the quarterback, that is helping kind of them be this great. I mean, we were talking about the last two offensive coordinators before Eric Bieniemy. Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, again, were hired strictly and straight from that role to be a head coach. So why would those two coaches get a pass, but now Eric Bieniemy, he has to go somewhere else? He's got to go show that he's actually a really good offensive coordinator and can call plays, so he's got to go somewhere else first before we, feel comfortable hiring him to be our next head coach. I don't buy it. Because we've seen plenty of examples of that not being the case across the NFL. So I don't think Eric Bieniemy has to get away from Andy Reid, has to leave Patrick Mahomes to show he could do it elsewhere in order to prove that he is actually a worthy head coaching candidate. So I don't think this move to Washington helps with that because I don't think that's a prerequisite for becoming a head coach. All that leads to this. The most controversial, and now more recently in the last few days, the most talked about reason as to why Andy Reid is not a head coach in the NFL, and that is because he's black. Right? That's been now, especially recently, the latest reason why people believe he's not a head coach is because of the color of his skin. This is my personal belief when it comes to the NFL, when it comes to the hiring cycle in the NFL. If owners thought Eric Bieniemy was the guy, if they thought this is our head coach, this guy is going to crush the role and bring us to greatness and bring us to new heights and have our offense be one of the best in the NFL. If owners felt like that, I don't think they're all of a sudden saying, but we can't hire him because he's black. But we can't hire him because the color of his skin. Because the one thing I do know about owners that I could say confidently and concretely is this. Their main motivation is money. They are motivated to do whatever puts the most money in their pockets at the end of the day. And last time I checked in the NFL, the way you get the most money in your pockets year after year is by winning. You look at some of the most valuable, the most popular franchises in all of the NFL. The Cowboys, the Steelers, the 49ers, most recently the Patriots, all mega brands within the NFL. For what reason? Because they are storied teams. Because they have a storied history of winning. The Cowboys have won a lot, not recently, but in the past. 49ers, Steelers have won a lot in the past. And that is why they are some of the most, popular and revered teams in all of the league, because it all started with them winning and winning a lot. I don't think an NFL owner would say, I'm going to choose to win less and hire a white head coach than hire Eric Bieniemy and have all the success and lead us to winning and put us in a position to win a Super Bowl, maybe multiple Super Bowls, and be, the team to be for the next decade. I just don't believe it. I don't. I think at the end of the day, owners are motivated more by winning than anything else, or by money than anything else, and winning helps, push money into their pockets more than anything else. When you look at all four reasons as to why the theory is that Eric Bieniemy is not the head coach, I don't think this move to Washington is going to move any of those theories and now all of a sudden make it more likely that he's a head coach going forward. I hate to say it. I don't wish this upon him, but I think it's true. I think his head coaching window is past. I don't think this move to Washington as the Commanders' OC and play caller is going to change his candidacy for a head coach going forward.